Okay, now let me share my screen. And we'll let you know, because there are several of you that are visitors, this is being brought to you by the Fresno California North Stake Consultants. It's been opened up to all of our coordinating council. And we do this twice a month. The first one, I get my slideshow to show here. Here we go. The first one of the month is usually what I call for everybody, in that it's stuff that a newbie or somebody who's a longtime consultant can use. The third Wednesday meeting, the second one of the month, is often geared to the beginners. And so I'll mention right now, and I'll mention again at the end because some people may miss it right now, that next month, the first meeting is going to cover what I'm going to call hints and beyond guided research. And it's going to be part of a series that I'm doing this year on the help aids that FamilySearch has for helping us do family history work. And we'll talk about hints in tree, and then going beyond that to start using guided research as a tool that we can introduce to our fairly new patrons, people that don't know a lot about family history research, and show how it's designed to be very helpful for everybody. I'm going to do one thing here, if I can get to it, which is I'm going to mute all of you. And then after we're through, you're welcome to ask questions. So right now, I'm just going to mute everybody. Then we won't get background noises and stuff like that. Okay, so I've been doing these for several years, and about once a year, sometimes twice a year, I do a lesson on what's new at FamilySearch. And that's partly because FamilySearch doesn't like to stay one way, it likes to change a lot. And so it's a fact that we need to constantly review what's going on there. So as consultants, we know what's out there, and we don't get blindsided when we're working with patrons, because it's not a static site. It likes to change, and some changes are there to fix problems that they find, and then a lot of changes are to try to make things better, make things work better, tweak things because the audience says, hey, we'd like this or that. And as FamilySearch ages, though, we have found that a lot of their changes are a little more subtle. And so sometimes they can slip in there and you might not even notice them for a while. And so we're going to find some. And like I was saying earlier, maybe before you came on, there's going to be some things we're going to talk about today that appeared either yesterday or today in Tree, at least in my version of Tree, as I went into FamilySearch. But we're going to stretch what's new in FamilySearch just a little bit with the first thing, because this is so good, I could not bring this up. Now, MyHeritage is one of our partner sites. As members of the church, we all can have a free account at MyHeritage. And you can use that for researching, but you can also use it for the great tools they're developing in working with photos. And they have been, over the last year and a half, working on sharpening photos up, colorizing photos, either taking black and whites and turning them into color, or taking faded colored photos and brightening up the colors. And then just in the last couple of weeks, they introduced animation of photos. And so to me, this is phenomenal, especially when you're a person like I am that had 3 grandparents that I've never seen in life because they died decades before I was born. And so this is my mother's mother, who died in childbirth when my mother was born. So obviously I've never met her in this life. And it was a picture taken of her around 1914. You can see the original photo, and then you can see how they colorized it, which in and of itself is fine. That's excellent. But then just this last week, they opened up yet another new feature when you go over to play in photos on their side of animation. And watch what it does with this photo. Whoops. This is, to me, phenomenal. Some people call it freaky. This is all artificial intelligence at work, taking a picture and trying to turn the person into a live person. I am just totally blown away by that, and just so grateful that they've done that. Now you're welcome to go over there, upload photos. If you have an account, you can upload photos and fix them, download them to your computer like I did, and you have them for yourself. I'm starting to see a lot of the colorized ones being posted as memories in FamilySearch. They're pictures that obviously were done before color photos, and now they're out there at FamilySearch colorized. Now, in all honesty, the real picture is this one on the left. That's the honest picture. Everything else is enhanced. And we should always remember that the true picture is the one on the left. But the things they've been able to do with that picture are just totally mind-boggling to me. So for your enjoyment, take a shot at that when you have a chance over at MyHeritage. And by the way, for those of you that are new, we send out to those that we know the recording for this meeting. And we also send out, either depending on how many megabytes the presentation is, either the PowerPoint or a JPEG or a PDF version of this presentation. This one will probably be a PDF. And we send those out afterwards. We send them through Brother Firestein for the rest of the council, and for our stake, Brother Ashcraft sends them out. And for those of you that are outside that, you obviously know how to get a hold of me. Just send me a message and I'll be happy to ship them to you if you're interested in having them. Okay, so now let's talk about FamilySearch. Whoops. And we're going to do some temple things first. Just recently, now that they are not returning your temple cards to you when you can finally get to a temple, they've made some other changes, several changes. We're going to talk about some of those. One of them is, since the cards aren't going to come back to you at all, some people are concerned that those cards have their personal information on them, not just their name, but beyond their name, their address, phone numbers, things like that. And they don't want that out on cards that aren't going to come back to them. And so as part of several changes to the temple reservation system recently, FamilySearch has now made an option where you can strip off the cards you print everything except your name. Your name will stay on there, but it can be set so that nothing else does. And I give you a couple of ways to do that through Android phones or an iOS or off of the website. But the key thing is, like if you're on your phone and you go to more, you're going to find, or in the settings, I'll take that back. You go to settings in your Tree app. In the list of settings, there's now this one that says show contact information on temple cards. And if you want the full contact information to show, you turn it on like it is there. If you don't want people to see your address or whatever other contact information besides your name you have, you can unclick that so that it turns gray, like the edit multiple screens below it is. This one is turned on right now, and it would mean then that if I printed cards from my phone, if I knew how to do it, I would have all my information on those cards. But so this is something that's pretty new. It's been out there for a month or two. Most of us, because we haven't been going to the temple for proxy work, we haven't had a need to use it yet, but that time will be coming soon, hopefully. Okay, something else that came live just this past week was the reservation system for reserving a visit to the temple. And it will go into effect at your temple when your temple reaches phase 3. When your temple goes to phase 3, that means you can start doing proxy ordinances. Then you're going to have to start scheduling appointments. Now, if you're doing living ordinances, like the temples, like our temples in phase 2, that's all we do right now, is living ordinances. Or if you're in phase 3 and you need to do a living ordinance, you'll have to phone in to make the reservation for a living ordinance. But once your temple hits phase 3, if you want to make an appointment to do proxy work, you're going to have to schedule online. There will be no taking of appointments over the phone for proxy work, period. And that means that if members of your ward are not computer savvy, don't have internet, or things like that, the consultant, ministering brothers and sisters are going to have to step in and help. Because if you want to show up at the temple with an appointment, because if there's heavy usage in your temple and only limited attendance, you probably won't get in without an appointment. Okay. The other thing is, and these are all coming from documents that have come out. I'm not doing this off the top of my head. These were from things that were mailed out. During phase 3, you must live or reside inside the temple district that you make the appointment. Now, the exception to that is that if you live in a temple area where your temple is closed for remodeling, then you may use other temples, and the system will allow you to do that because they'll know you belong to the Salt Lake Temple District and they know you can't go to the Salt Lake Temple. So it will allow you to make reservations in other temples. But if I live in the Fresno Temple area and try to make a reservation over the phone for Sacramento, it's not going to let me under phase 3 because I don't live in the Sacramento Temple area. Okay, so now this has been put up on our temple, which of course is kind of funny because we're in phase 2 right now and we only do living ordinances. If you click back there on that schedule now, which is in red, this is what you'll get. You'll get a page that comes up and it's for the Fresno Temple. Right under the picture, it says, your temple's not scheduling appointments online right now. And that's because we're not open for proxy ordinances right now. And so what you can do, though, to see what you're going to have to do is on that screen to the right of the picture, it'll say, how do I schedule? And if you click on that, it will bring up a pop-up window where it has a video that will walk you through the steps so that you can familiarize yourself with the process before you get into having to actually do it. And so that's something I would recommend everybody do, just so you get a feel for what's going on. The big thing is the word needs to be put out once we reach phase 3 so that people are prepared and don't get messed up and get frustrated because they couldn't get an appointment. They need to know how to do this. They need to be prepared for this. Okay, something else that just came out this week is there's now a new phase called 2B. Temple phase 2B. This was just announced this week over the church newsroom, and they said that 14 temples would be opening in phase 2B by March 29th. And interestingly enough, 3 of them are here on the West Coast: Seattle, Medford, and Portland. And this will be the temple will be open, of course, for all living ordinances, and for a limited use of the temple baptistry for small groups, particularly those with limited use recommends. So like new members and youth that have limited use recommends in small groups. And so that will be coming. This is so new, I haven't seen much. There's a little bit of description of what goes on there. But if you go to this article, it will take you to some more detail. But just realize that 2B is going to be what will come after we get into phase 2, before we end up in phase 3. So they're actually kind of pushing baptistry work a little bit. Now, here's something that just appeared today. It's supposed to have been rolled out yesterday. I didn't see it yesterday, but I did today. And it's still a part of this not returning your cards to you. They've talked for a long time. Ron Tanner's been talking for a long time about the fact that they were going to stop returning cards to us, which they eventually stopped doing, and that they would introduce a completed ordinance list for you of the ordinances that you had reserved that were done, because you know that when somebody has an ordinance done on your temple list, that name drops off the list. And now you don't know when it was done or where it was done, because it just vanishes. It just goes poof. Okay, and the first step towards that were the notifications, and we'll talk about those in a minute. The next step beyond notifications is this completed list. And you should, at least mine did it today. Hopefully it'll do yours too. If you click on the temple up on the top of your menu bar across the top of the screen of FamilySearch, and you click on temple, you're not going to just see my reservations and shared and ordinances ready. You're now also going to see a completed icon. Now, initially, we were under the impression that it might be a list going back to the beginning of New FamilySearch and all of your completed ordinances. Well, on my screen today, it says that these completed ordinances will be those completed within the last 2 years. And after 2 years, they will be dropped off the list. So this is not a list that's going to sit there and grow and grow and grow. It's a list that will be there for 2 years, and then the ordinances will disappear. The oldest ordinance I have on mine is the 19th of February, 2019. And since the temples have been closed to proxy work, they've extended that 2-year period because of that. They didn't bring it up to today's date in 2019. They left it back in February when they closed the temples, or approximately when they closed the temples. Now, this list has 2 ways to see it. One is strictly the list of ordinances, and they just skip from person to person to person to person, one at a time. You may sort the people. When you sort the people, like I sorted them, it'll say sort by ID number. So they sorted Linda Sheets, and this is what I get for her. I get her baptism, her confirmation, and her initiatory. Those are the only ones that got done before the temples closed. But I have a nice little list now of what she's done. This is the only place I'm going to see it, because they're not going to be up here in shared or my reservations anymore, because all the ordinances I had for her are right here. I don't have any others, so she's not even on the screen. And so I'm going to be allowed, if I click the little box in front of there, to print this. And so I would strongly recommend you maybe sort ordinances by people, by IDs, periodically, and then maybe print them to PDF or paper if you prefer paper. But do something like that so that you have a record, because it will be your one record now of what you've done. They've tried to substitute saving the cards for having this, but this will not stay there permanently. It will stay there until an ordinance is 2 years old, and the day after 2 years, it goes off the list. So I would assume that means on the 14th of February in 2022, the baptism and confirmation for Linda is going to drop off the list. That's my understanding of how it's going to work. But this is an improvement. Basically, what they've done is, this is about the time they started sending out those notifications. And so these are in place of the notifications that came out. And in reference to notifications, that was a change yesterday also. Of course, it does not affect most of us because we're not getting our ordinances done right now. But essentially, what it did is these notifications will still be sent out. The long-term substitution, though, is the completed ordinance list. The way the notifications are changing is that they will show up under your temple tab as notifications, but they will only remain there for 7 days. And after 7 days, they will be deleted out of the system. Part of their problem is they don't want to have multiple records of the same thing on different platforms in different locations, possibly not always in agreement. And so what they're doing is they'll give you this notification as a quick check that, yeah, your ordinance got marked down, but it goes away after 7 days. And from there on, the way to find it is to go into those completed ordinances. So there's quite a bit of stuff about temple records that are all happening this week. You're finally starting to see these things they've been waiting for months and months and years to do. The next big one I predict that will come out will be the one where they stop sending the ordinances to your temple and they put them all into one big hopper, and the earliest ones in, which will probably be ours, will be the first ones out. And that's going to come next, but that's probably not going to be done until we get a lot of temples in phase 3. Because until we have phase 3, where there's a lot of proxy work being done, there's not any need for it, really. Okay, so moving on, more things. FamilySearch has always had a kind of a disconnect between FamilySearch.org, which is the family history side of the church, and the church history library, which is, of course, the church history side. And one of those is the fact that if you do find things, and there are a lot of things over in the church history catalog now that you can get to, there's been no way to make a source. And so what they have finally done is they've gone into the catalog and set it up so that you can create a source from something in the church history catalog. So this is the page. You can find it by going to catalog.churchofjesuschrist.org. and you'll be able to get there. Their catalog has a lot of things you can search by call number, title, author, subject, church periodicals, whatever you want to search by. I usually leave it on any. And so I'll do a search for something that I think needs to be categorized. So I put in my second great grandfather, William Folsbury Carter, but I just put it as William F. Did a search. The first thing that came up is an original letter written in May of 1853 when he was on his mission in Calcutta, India, to his brother Dominicus. Now, this is an original letter, and it's not been sourced over in Tree. And so I would like to source this. And so I can do this now. And I start by clicking on the title of the article, the thing here, in this case, the letter, so that I can open the letter up. When I do this, I get to see a portion of the letter. It's a 4-page document. At least we have 4 pages of it. And what's so nice about this is now they have added an icon on this page over on the right-hand side, which is a little tree. If you hover your mouse over that, it would say source. And so I know I can click on that little green FamilySearch icon and create a source for this document. So what comes up first is they want to know, who are we going to put this on? So I have to know William Folsbury Carter's ID number. So I pasted it in there. And then I click on attach. And when I do that, up comes what should look familiar to you, the sourcing boxes that you would use for a source in FamilySearch, already filled in with the information from the church history catalog. I added a description down here. Said this is a letter, this was written to Carter's brother, telling of his activities as a missionary in India and describing conditions in Calcutta. The letter is incomplete because there's apparently missing page or pages, but it is 4 pages long. And then when you're all done, you click save. So I did that and I got a strange result. It said FamilySearch, a new tree source was created and saved in your source box. I would have thought it would have said saved to William Folsbury. So the first thing I did is I went looking to him to see what was in his list of sources, and it wasn't there, which I thought was interesting. Apparently that's not working right. Okay, so now I'm worried. It says it's in the source box. So what should I do? I should go to my source box. So I went to the source box. And so I went on William Folsbury's page. I went to his sources and I said, add a source. And then I said, let's attach it from the source box. And sure enough, right at the top of the list, which is where your most recently made source should be located, is this source. And so I clicked attach, and then I have to tell them again why I'm doing this. I'm attaching it because William wrote to his brother Dominicus in 1853, and I say attach. And then when I look at my list of sources for William, sure enough, there's his source. So I was able to get this source out of the church history catalog over at the church history site and get it sourced over at FamilySearch. So that's pretty cool. A little bit tricky, but for those of you that have family that's been in the church for a long time, there could be some real gems over there that you'd like to have sourced. Now, I don't normally mention particular data groups, but this one was so special, I had to. For those of us that have been in the church for a while, we know that back before the computers, our membership records were pieces of paper kept in a file in a clerk's office, and they did censuses. The church actually did censuses to kind of justify and check out their records against what they thought they had periodically. So in the years 1914, 1920, 25, 30, 35, 40, not 45 because of World War II, 50, 55, and 60, the church did a census of everybody. And those records have been at FamilySearch for years on microfilms. And they finally decided they would go through and index them and put them out where you can get to them. And so this is actually a data set in historical records now. They may pop up on your family members as hints. Even if they don't, just do a search for your family members and you'll probably see these. Now, you'll see the index. You will not see a link to the images. You'll see the nasty little message that you have to go to the Family History Center to see the originals. So there's another good reason for our members to come over to the Family History Center. So this was my family in 1955 with my father, born in Globe, Arizona, my mother born in Orange, New Jersey, and yours truly, born in Tucson. I thought that was pretty cool. And so I thought you might like to see that, because if you've been in the church since before 1960 or have family members that were, they're probably on these census records. You may have some trouble because they're probably handwritten. Some of them may be transcribed strangely, but they should show up. So take a dabble. Here's some new sources to put on some of our people. But I thought that was exciting. Okay, volunteer opportunities. Now this one's been around for a little while, but I wanted to expand beyond it. This is the improved place names. You may have run across this on your tree app. You can actually do this on the web on your computer by going to familysearch.org/tree/improve place names, or just go to your tree app and under more, you'll see improved place names. And what this is an opportunity when you have a couple of minutes, and it really only takes a few minutes, to help the church standardize unstandardized places, because there are literally billions of them. And so what they do is they feed you 10 at a time. A batch is 10. You can probably do it in less than 10 minutes. And so if you click review 10 places, you'll get a screen that looks like this. And it'll show you the person they're talking about. It'll show what they're trying to work on. And this is a residence. And it's saying it's a non-standardized place. And they have some other information about the person to kind of help you if you need it down below there. But to fix it, you just click select standard place, and up will come a drop down with maybe several things, or in this case, just one. They want it to change to Okmulgee City, Okmulgee, Oklahoma, United States. They want to add city to the first one. So all you do is just click on the one you want, which is, the only one that's there, and then click save and continue, and you go to the next one. If you're not sure what's going on, click skip and just do the ones you feel comfortable doing. That's been around a while. Every once in a while, when I've got a few minutes and I think about it, I just get my phone out and go do 10 of them just for the heck of it. Now, that's just part of a group of things. If you go to familysearch.org/info/volunteer, this is where this came from. And there are several other things. They talk about indexing historical records. That's indexing. Here's our improved place names. But now here are the other things. You could volunteer to test FamilySearch products. I've done that with a couple of them in the past, except they caught me in the family history library in Salt Lake and just pulled me aside and said, hey, you want to play with this? And they signed me up to look at a couple of different things over the years. There's also Grow the Tree, which is essentially go in and work in your tree. They have Genealogy Research Volunteer. It says for the Facebook FamilySearch communities, I wish, because that's where I work is Facebook, but really it's for the community at FamilySearch, where you could go if you feel like you'd like to help people that need help in their research. You can go over there and you can help answer questions that people ask, because we have a community set up like that, like a social media site where people that need help can go ask their questions and then somebody can answer it for them. You could also help research historical places. This is to create those places that we see when we have to put in where our family's from. They're constantly trying to build the database of places, the place name list. And so this is to help develop that. They also need help in actual translation of FamilySearch content. So if you have a language skill that they might need, because FamilySearch is in, I think it's 15 languages now, you could volunteer to help there. Or this is the first time I've ever seen this, where you could actually do a cash donation to FamilySearch if you felt inclined to do that. So if anybody ever says, well, I'd like to leave a donation for FamilySearch, this would be where you'll find it, over here in this section of volunteer activities. Okay, here's another one that's being rolled out. They are changing what our historical record transcription page looks like. And the big thing you'll notice when it hits you is a big black bar across the top of the screen. This was supposed to start back on the 8th. And it didn't show, and it didn't show, and it didn't show. And all of a sudden, 2 days ago, I was doing something in records, and one of the records popped up with this. And I've yet to be able to duplicate it since. So you won't probably see this yet, but maybe you have. I haven't. But essentially, it's a remake of the page for the historical records to make it a little easier to see, a little easier to work with, a little more functional. And so it still has all the same things. Tells you who you're on, what you're looking at, shows you the image if there's an image, gives you some information from the record. Here's the actual transcription and the names of the people down at the bottom. At the top, it has a place to save the record, edit the record, which for right now should still be just the name, and share the record, where you could send it to somebody, share it on Facebook, or something like that. Now, one of the changes is it is going to start suggesting to you who this person is that you're looking at, who they think Maxwell Sands is. And they say that it's Maxwell Sands with this ID number and born and death dates. And basically it's a hint. It's a match. And you can dismiss the match if you don't think that's the right person. Or you can go ahead and attach the record to that person. If you dismiss it, then it's going to ask you to provide an ID for the person you want to attach this to. So what I'm saying is this Maxwell Sands might be one guy, the one you're working on, and their suggestion might be a totally different record and tree to somebody else probably named the same. And so they'll provide you with some information and things here. You decide if this is what you want to do. If you want to attach it, you just click attach and it takes you into SourceLinker, just like it always has. The rest of it will be the same. If you say dismiss it, then you're going to have to tell them who you want to attach it to. And like I say, you may not see that yet, but it's out there. And it's starting, I think it's being rolled out piecemeal because they want to make sure this works. And one of those things that even though they've tested it, they're probably still leery of it. So it may take a while, but like I say, 2 days ago, I actually saw it on a record. So I don't know if they're rolling it out to people or if they're doing it to certain record sets, like this is the 1920 census. And I don't know if that was what I was looking at the other day. So anyway, that's something new. Another thing I just thought I'd bring up, they posted this a month ago, that FamilySearch really, really, really wants you to put your photos in memories. Do not feel that you're taking up too much web space of theirs by wanting to post your family pictures. They want you to post your family pictures. They would like you to consider this to be permanent cloud storage for your pictures. They don't want your 53 pictures of your daughter's stuffed animals. But if they're important pictures, they're good pictures, they're relevant pictures, yes, post them. And don't worry about how many. Just post them and document them, because if you don't document them, they won't make any sense. But yeah, post them and document them as you go. But don't be afraid to do it. Don't feel bad that, oh, you're taking up all of FamilySearch's space. They actually encourage you to do that. So enough said on that. Okay, FamilySearch is always trying to make things more relevant. They know that you and I, who are genealogists, love dates and places. And they also know that most of our patrons get turned off by just dates and places. And so they have bent over backwards trying to think of everything they can to make things more relevant to the non-genealogists and our myths, which is 98% of our members. And so one of the things they've just started doing is working on some cultural pages. Cultural identity means talking about different countries or groups and exploring their culture to find out about their art, their music, their food, and things like that, so that people can connect in a more personal way to their ancestors. Knowing that they have Armenian heritage and seeing their Armenian ancestors on trees, one thing. Seeing pictures of them is better. Learning about their Armenian heritage would be yet another way to grow this. And so they have started through their blog, the FamilySearch blog, to develop a section called Cultural Identity Country Pages. They have done 14 so far. Armenia, Brazil, Denmark, England, Fiji, Finland, Italy, Mexico, Norway, Puerto Rico, Samoa, Sweden, Scotland, Wales. For each of those groups or countries, mainly countries, they have developed a set of pages. And so since we have a lot of Armenian people in the Fresno area, I thought it'd be appropriate to click on Armenia. And lo and behold, I found out that the person that wrote this is one of my cousins, Amy Tennant, who's a professional genealogist. And She wrote a series of pages that covers things like Armenian memories, all about Armenian culture, the amazing of Armenian food, filling your Armenian family tree, the Armenian disbursement when they were uh, run out of Armenia during Armenian is equivalent of the Holocaust, discovering the meaning of your Armenian last name, and more. So they have pages and pages and pages of background information and pictures and things like that for each of these locations as a way to help deepen your feeling for that part of your family that might come from there. And they will be adding more as time goes on. This was just the first 14. That's one way they're doing things. Now, they've also just introduced what they call new ancestor discovery pages. As I've thought about this, I think what it is they realize that when you get right down to it, if you're not a genealogist, the person page for most of our ancestors, you know, the names and the dates and places, isn't real exciting for a lot of people. So they've decided to start creating some other pages for our ancestors where they take the information from FamilySearch and they jazz it up. And so this is what they're doing. Now, I have found you can go and actually search the section where this is found, or I would say go to Google and Google it. Google the person's name in quotes and then their birth year dash death year. So I just put in Joseph Elwood Sands, 1811, 1881. That's my second great grandfather. I hit enter in Google, and like the very top one is this one that comes from ancestors.familysearch.org. Now, like those cultural things we were just showing you, they haven't done one of these yet for everybody in tree, but they're working on it. They're rolling them out part at a time. So you may get ancestors that show up. Some will, some won't. The key thing is they will be usually right at the top of the list or within one or two of the top of the list when you use Google. They've gerrymandered this so that it shows up. You can see this was the very top one because it said about 5 results, and the very first thing is this one. Now, if you go to Ancestors, you're going to be into a real long, drawn out, dig down through things to get to the people. And I found this to be a lot easier to do than doing that. You're welcome to go over to ancestors.familysearch and try it that way, but this is a heck of a lot easier. So what do you get? Okay, this is what you'll get. You'll get a brand new page you've never seen before, more colorful. They will build a little story of your ancestor's life based on the names and dates and places. That's where they built this with artificial intelligence. They'll show you the parents and siblings of the person. And these people are all hot links. You can click on them and go to them. If he has memories or she has memories, they'll show some photos and memories, like up to 3 of them. He only has 2, so this shows everything. And you can click on them and see them. It'll also show you this person's spouse and children if they're married. You can go and see something about his heritage or traditional dress for people from his homeland, which is Pennsylvania, so early United States. And then a timeline, which will show you information for his family, either based on him, his spouse and children, or his parents and siblings. So you can toggle between the two. Then down below that, They will highlight a story if there's any stories and memories. They'll start as one of the stories from memories, and you can click on it and see the rest. They'll show up to 3 sources, and you can view the rest of them. It will talk about the parts of his name and what they mean. Sands is an English, Scottish, or Northern Irish surname, a variant of Sand. And it'll show possible related names, Sand. It'll also show world events that occurred during this person's lifetime. And then if you're not a member of FamilySearch, you'll be invited to create an account. This is a great way to advertise yourself. And that's part of what FamilySearch is doing here, along with ways to share. Okay, so that's these new people pages. Now, one other thing I wanted to throw in, just so we're clear, because we're all consultants. We all help people. And up until this past May, you could help a person who had never, ever, ever had a FamilySearch account. As long as you knew their name, their birth date, and the last 5 digits of their membership, you could get in to their account and make changes and help them and, be their helper. You can no longer do that. If the person has never made an LDS account, which means they've never been into tools, LDS.org, FamilySearch, or any other website the church runs, and created an account, you're not going to be able to be their helper. And so if you're going to help them, you're going to have to help them make an account. But do not, and this was news to me, do not create a non-member account for them to start with, because it's too hard to go find their number, figuring, well, I'll just switch it over later. Because the catch will be that once you switch it over from a non-member account to an LDS account, the things they did as a non-member will no longer be visible to them. So if you hook them up to their family with living records until you could get back to their deceased ancestors through a non-member account, and then you get them going in their LDS account, they'll no longer have the linkage to their ancestors, and you'll have to do it again. So please, if you're going to do this, do it right and get their membership number from the clerk if you have to, so that you can set them up correctly to start with. Don't be tempted to just say, oh, we'll just make you a non-member to begin with, because you're going to lose stuff. Fair warning. Okay, a couple more things that are new and we'll be done. Famous relatives now. This is Relative Finder hits FamilySearch. Okay, we know about Relative Finder over at BYU and what they've done for a long time. Well, now they've put a version of it over in FamilySearch. If you go to Activities and then click on All Activities, right in the very top row center is Famous Relatives. This is new. Okay, you click on it, you're going to find that they have 7 categories. They may add more down the road, I don't know. They don't have near as many as Relative Finder. So this is not Relative Finder on steroids. This is Relative Finder on something else. This is a cut down version. But they do show you some leaders, entertainers and artists, church pioneers, athletes, inventors and scientists, church leaders, and trailblazers. Those are the 7 categories they have right now. So we'll click on Zachary Taylor and see what happens. When you click on him, you get that same little chart that you see over at Relative Finder, which is what I wish they would start showing, and they said they were going to, on Family Tree, where you get to see not just your ancestor heading back to the common ancestor, but your ancestor and their spouse. That's what this is nice for, because it shows both the ancestral line along with the spouse that is attached in there. So it helps you to visualize a little better if the line is accurate or not. So Zachary's my 5th cousin 3 times removed. Now, if I want to learn more about Zachary, I click Learn More. And it comes to yet another set of new pages. These are the famous people pages that FamilySearch has built. It'll tell you up at the top how you're related. It'll give you the person's birth and death years, their ID number out of FamilySearch. It'll show you, if they have some, pictures and things of the person. And you'll be able to see photos, stories, documents, and audio. In other words, memories for this person. And if you're LDS, their ordinances. And so this is yet another set of pages that are colorful, visual, that will help turn people on. That's the beauty of it. Okay, something else that just came out. If you've done much in Tree, you know that you can follow people, and you often will get a note that says, you're changing this, and there are 5 people who are following this person, and they will be notified. And in the back of your mind, you've always said, who are they? You're now going to be able to find out, as of this week again, something new. So the way to find this is you have to go to your following list. It won't work off of the person's page where it says there are 3 people following this person. You've got to go to your following list, and you find that in the drop down under Tree where it says following. And so you're going to click on following, and your list will show up, and everybody has 3 little dots. Prior to today or yesterday, the 3 little dots gave you a new drop down that talked about adding a label. Like you could say, this is a problem person, or, put whatever you want to put in there. This is a brick wall person, or whatever you want, or you could unfollow. But now, if there are people besides you following it, or actually, they will all have this, because even if you're the only person, it's going to say 1 person following. It's going to tell you how many people are following. And if you click on that, it will now give you a list with the names. So John Anderson is being followed by 3 people. I marked him back in 2017. And on the 3rd of March, 2019, Andy Davis and Sheila McInnes marked him as being followed. Now, if I click on their names, I won't be able to view their relationship here. Why, I don't know. But it will allow me to contact them. It will show their contact information, but it's not going to offer me a chance to see how we're related. To do that, you're going to have to go back into Tree and hope they'd made some changes or did something where you can catch their name down there in blue so you can see how you're related. But this is now found under following. Okay, we're almost at the end, folks. Time's almost up. We're almost at the end. Okay, they have also finally, after years, developed something fairly simple for getting people started. I'm trying to figure out where the link is found inside FamilySearch. You can get there by doing FamilySearch.org/getting started. I would imagine that a person who's brand new, it will be in one of those little boxes on the screen that they have, you know, that change to different things. I don't have it on my homepage. I would imagine it shows up on beginners' homepages. Or you can just go to this page. And this is what the top of the page looks like. Is that one of the biggest problems FamilySearch has had is they've never provided much guidance to new people ever. Well, this isn't great, but it's better than anything they've ever done before. You'll notice there's a little arrow here. That takes you further down the page where there are 7 boxes. Here's the first 3. And there's a kind of a sequence here. The first one is called Find Your Ancestor, or Find Ancestor Ordinances. That essentially introduces you to Ordinances Ready. So that right away you can have somebody have a way to get ordinances even if they don't have a tree yet. The second box is called Make Family Discoveries. It has 2 features there. The first one will let them search for an ancestor. If they know an ancestor, a great-grandfather's name or something, they can search, try to find that person, learn about it. It will take them, if they find one, to those new ancestor pages that they've developed that we showed you a little bit ago. Secondly, if they don't have a tree at all, it will invite them to begin a tree. Okay, but then the rest of the steps go and tell them some more things they should do in this journey of getting started. Learn about you, takes them into some discovery activities to find out about themselves. Then going on down the page, start your genealogy. It's going to walk them through the steps of asking your family for all the documentation, and then helps them get started gathering this together and putting it together so that they can create a tree. Then they're going to talk about saving family memories. They focus on 2 things, photos and audio memories, and walk them through step by step how they can add memories to tree. And then there's a step-by-step guide to actually getting them started and building their tree using hints as they go, adding names, waiting to see if hints pop up, and adding the hints to add more information to the people. And then the last step is, once they've progressed far enough, search historical records. So once they've got a tree going, they feel comfortable with hinting, then they introduce them to the historical records. So it's still not an all-inclusive program, but it really is a nice, simplified way of step-by-step, here's what to do. And it only took FamilySearch 9 years to finally do this, because we needed this back at the beginning of new FamilySearch, and we're just now finally getting it. So all in all, it's a pretty good program, though. So I don't want to knock it. I'm glad they have finally done something. So that's it. You survived. I survived barely. I'll stop sharing so I can see you. We ended up around 70 people. Any questions?
Mine's by the side, the one from West State. How many are in your group there? West State Family History Center.
Could you repeat that question? But you were very garbled.
Yeah, how many of you are in the West State Family History Center? Did they already sign off?
Just one tonight.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, nobody showed up, so it's just me.
Shame on them.
I know.
Okay, so it looks like we had a total of 72, not counting those who are duplicated, like Kellogg's.
Question for you. In your early part of your recording, did you do anything on the new completed ordinances report?
On the completed ordinances report.
Yeah, that's brand new as well in FamilySearch.
Okay, I talked about that at the beginning. It shows
Okay.
up now on your drop down for Temple.
Yeah. I just didn't know. I got in a little bit late.
Okay, it's on the drop down for Temple.
Yep.
It'll say completed. You click on that. In the initial list will be a list of all the ordinances done in the last 2 years. Actually, probably back to about the 19th of February, 2019. And they'll just be listed by ordinance. There is a little icon on the upper right corner you can click on, and you can sort them either by ordinances or you can sort them by people. If you sort them by people, it'll put all the ordinances together for the same person. That list will stay up. The ordinances on that list will stay up for 2 years. At the end of 2 years, they will be removed. So I would recommend you sort it by people and print it to PDF or print it to paper periodically and keep a record, because it won't be permanent. It's going to cycle. At the end of 2 years, that ordinance drops off of there. That's where all the ordinances that are done now, from now on, plus the ones that were done in the last 2 years, that's where they're all going to show after they're done. That help?
Yeah, I already had that. I just wanted to make sure it was covered.
Yeah. It started on my screen tonight. So hopefully it's on yours. Now, I don't know if they're doing a measured rollout or if it's general.
It's been out there since Tuesday, I think.
Okay, well, I didn't get it till today.
Yeah. Well, today's Wednesday.
So they're doing it incrementally.
Yep.
Yeah, I tried to be up to date.
Good job.
And that was tough this week
Yeah.
because we had a lot of things hit the fan this week.
Yes, they did.
Any other questions?
I know that FamilySearch is going to continually make updates. I was just wondering, is there a place where they're going to post those updates to let us know what's happening? Or?
Well, they send out a what's new is one of their emails. The trouble is it's always a little behind. Some of this stuff has never been on those. I have my sources.
Yeah, we've actually talked to Ron Tanner more than once in his open Q&As about that. And they say they're doing so many changes every day. They're not sending out a list of what the changes are.
Yeah.
And so all we're getting is the major changes when they post them. That's it.
Yeah. There could be other things that have happened out there that we didn't even notice.
Yeah.
Question about the last part that you talked about, the new getting started page for beginners.
Uh-huh.
I couldn't write fast enough. The website was FamilySearch.org, and that's where I stopped. Do you remember what the rest of it is?
I believe it's FamilySearch.org/getting started.
Yeah. Yeah. That's from the outside. You can also get to it from inside FamilySearch, like going to your help icon, and it's like the second line down where it says getting started.
Okay, thank you.
I'm glad you caught that because I didn't. I went looking for it tonight and I didn't notice that.
Where did he
Yeah,
say
I'll probably,
it also?
yeah, I'll probably post something up on the various sites on Facebook here that mentions that, because that's a good idea.
Okay, for next month, our first Wednesday next month, which is April 7th, it will be Hints and Beyond Guided Research. And we'll cover hints, hinting, and then going beyond hints into guided research and talking about how to introduce that to your patrons as an easy way to kind of get them headed towards doing historical records, but in a very simplified version of historical records. And so one of these finding aids that have been developed to help us.
Like you're going to sleep.
That'll be on the 7th. And then on the 21st, we'll have one called, So You've Been Called as a Consultant, Now What? And we'll
Can I
explore a little bit about what's going on with how to be a consultant. Yes.
Can I ask a question? On that meeting on the 7th, are you going to record the meetings always so that we can see them
Yeah,
later? And
we
where can
record
we
them.
get, where do we get those at?
Okay, you should get them from your stake family history or stake high counselor over family history, or your stake consultant, whoever is sending out the notices of the meetings. What
Right.
we do is we have to take this meeting, which means I got to stop recording it. Thanks for saying something. So we don't need this recorded. I have to send this to one of the brethren in our group